welcome to The Story That Built Her. This is where we go beyond the highlight reel to the real, raw, honest stories that have built entrepreneurial women. And I am your host, Monique Alvarez, and we are going to sit down today with Renée, and we're going to hear about your story, Renée, and we're going to glean from your wounds, your wisdom, this wild ride that is life, and we're going to get behind the scenes today. So first of all, Renée, welcome.
Thank you so much, Monique. It's been a joy, like just getting to meet you and just seeing the way in which you communicate your message so powerfully. That's what attracted me to you. Your sense of just getting to the point quickly and having just no pretenses and just sharing like it is. I love being around people like that. So it's been a joy for me to
Thank you
see
so
some
much.
of your messages.
I know that we've been looking forward to sitting down together and diving into a conversation. I always say that there's various stories that are these crossroad moments, defining moments. What is one of those stories for you? What was one of those times that it was just this, it was a defining moment?
Yeah. The defining moment for me was, if I can give you an analogy, because I'm big on analogies, for those of you that have kids, like if you ever make a pizza with your kids, you take the dough and you throw it up, right? Some of the sauce like goes to the wall. That's how my life was turning out. I was the sauce that was like hitting the wall. Everything was happening so quickly, and I couldn't have felt more out of alignment. Like I didn't know what to do next, but I knew that I was not living my truth. And it was such a wake-up call for me because, Monique, I knew my truth back when I was 16. This is what I find fascinating. I grew up in an emotionless, somewhat loving, but an emotionless, lack of expression home. And I was always the one that was begging for a reaction, a feeling, a thought. Is anyone going to share? And I'll always remember, ever since I was young, like my voice was the one thing that was my superpower amidst all of the bullying, amidst not being a part of the crowd, amidst never really fitting in. And I always knew that I was like this underdog, if you will. Like I was going to be the person that was going to step up and speak out for people that couldn't or wouldn't. So I just find it fascinating. Like I was the person that people would point to and say, Renée, can you ask the teacher this question? Renée, can you ask this? Like I was the spokesperson. And yet I was also the one that people didn't like because I would never shut up and I always had something to say and I always had an opinion or a thought. And it's fascinating to me when I look back on my past and how I see that women like Oprah Winfrey and all these people, like they were my role models. They were the ones, she was the one that taught me, and some others, I can't think of their names that I followed at the time, but they were the ones that like taught me to stand up for myself and speak about my truth. But it became suppressed, for so many years, for I guess just wanting to fit in and wanting to be a part of the group, and just always faced so much adversity that always required for me to use my voice. And it got me into trouble. It got me separated from jobs because I was the one that was willing to stand up for things that other people were not. But yet they would tap me on the shoulder and go, I'm so glad you said that. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for being the one to say that. So I guess it's no accident that I landed in the nonprofit space. I became the underdog for people. I raised millions of dollars in my career. I spoke to audiences for over 15 years, large, small, executive, non-executive, uh, different, cultures and sizes. And the one thing that became very clear to me was that I had to learn how to get through to people. And that was before storytelling became a thing. Like I was storytelling before the buzzword was out, and I didn't know what was happening because I was making these unbelievable connections with audiences. And so I knew I was onto something, but yet, like I was saying, I spun out of control, and then I went into the wrong careers and the wrong jobs, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I really did. I felt like that sauce on the wall. So it took a lot of painful moments and separations and toxic jobs for me to say, what the heck, what am I doing? Like, why am I not using my voice for good? And I don't know, the person that was always the outspoken one that had so much to say, the new me became the person to help others do the same, not just become great at speaking, but to advocate for yourself, to stand up for whatever's right in your world or the people you care about, to question, to be curious. And it's been an amazing journey for me since. And that was a very long run-on sentence from a communication coach.
No.
But there you go.
I like it. So when did you make the exit from, these different careers into saying, I'm going to be a speaker and a communications coach, and I'm going to teach this to others so that they can have the tools to do it for themselves?
Yeah. It's interesting because when I got out of fundraising, totally burnt me out. The 50+ hour weeks. I had my kids, I raised my kids. I went back into fundraising in different capacities. And then I became the trainer. I was always the one like, oh, Renee, can you lead this training? Can you lead this? Can you do this? And I was the one that became that. So I started doing my business very part-time, very part-time. I didn't have a website, didn't have anything, but people started to know me as the one that could help people. So I would say, probably from 2018, I started very part-time, not speaking, but just helping people, helping kids. This one would hire me. My kid doesn't have confidence. I would help them. It was just very sporadic. And I think the litmus test for me really happened right before the pandemic. Literally, like 2019, I was separated from a job that it was a scene out of a movie, really, the way it all went down. And I had signed up for one of Mel Robbins' courses on how to change your life. It's 2020, let's change your life. And I did it, Monique. I did everything. I got like my web page done and I got my business cards done. I did everything in like 24 hours. And I started getting out there, and then the pandemic hit. So instead of utilizing that time when everyone else was using that time to get into the space and get out there, and I'm like, it's not meant for me. I don't like being online. I like being with people. So I hung out and I baked cookies with my kids, for a year and a half. And then that pull came, came back to me. I started substitute teaching, and then they needed an improvisation teacher because they fired someone. And then I found myself being the improv teacher at the high school. And that was the first moment back in 2021 where I felt in alignment. I felt alive. I felt like all of the things and all of the skills that I had learned from being in fundraising and training and storytelling came to me, and I started teaching it. And that was it. And then I was on my path. At 51, I realized what my path was. I quit my job full time, and I started this in 2023. And I started my coaching and speaking business. I thought I was going to be speaking more than coaching, but I think for my own confidence, I felt like I needed to coach because I wasn't sure what my message was. So it took me, I coached dozens and dozens and dozens of people. So I then realized what my message was. And now I'm putting myself out there as a speaker and doing more speaking engagements. So that's kind of how it went down.
I love it, and it can work both ways. When I first came online, I wasn't sure what I wanted to offer, so I just talked every day, live, Facebook Live, but really for myself, just so I, hear myself talk. And then a theme appeared, and then I knew what to offer. But I love how you did it. Okay, I'm going to help people, and then a theme appears, and then oh yes, I know what I like to talk about. I know what I'm passionate about. Either way works.
Either way. So now it's exciting. I have a heartstring. I never knew this was going to happen, but this is how it evolved. I have a heartstring for executives because they're so caught up in, the knowledge that they have and the way that they deliver it and the way that they show up. Like they can't see that there's a lens going on where they're blocked to connect with other people because they've been telling the same story in the same way and they're expected to speak in a certain way. So I have a heartstring for them. And I also enjoy working so much with high school students, because I feel like, my goodness, they're the ones turning into the adults that I'm coaching that are so fearful. And regardless of their title or their level of income, it's fascinating to me, the blocks that people have. So those are my three core areas, youth, more specifically high school students, executives, and then, rising leaders are the people I help.
I like that. Yeah, do you find with executives that it's getting out of this purely professional mode to creating deeper connection?
100%. I was just invited onto a podcast where people were blown away by how important it was, even at the executive level, to just tackle simplicity. I kind of laid it out to them like this. And this is what I've done with some of my clients. I want you to envision that you're speaking to a bunch of 5-year-olds. Just for a moment, consider what it would be like if you're speaking to 5-year-olds. And you know what happens, Monique? Everything changes about them. You could see they're becoming who they are. They're warming up. Their shoulders are going down. This whole pretense of having to expect to sound a certain way and all of the accolades, it just falls off. It just becomes like a real moment of, hey, yeah, this is why I care so much about this thing. Or, yeah, this is why I created this product. Or, yeah, this is my story. And this is the one thing that's vulnerable that I've been afraid to share, but now I'm willing to share it. So, yes, 100% connection in going back to just making it simple. Just make it real. And I found that technique has really worked for me. If I'm 5, how would you talk to me? Like, pretend that I am. And the whole dynamic changes. The language changes, the body language changes, the heart starts showing up, and the soul as one. It's not just talking from here. It's talking
Yeah.
from the gut.
Yeah, it's true, because speaking just from the mind and intellectual and delivering information, it just doesn't create the connection. People aren't going to stay along for the ride. It's you can see it on social media, you can see it in person, you can see it in corporations, you can see it in families. It's like it just doesn't work. It doesn't translate well.
It doesn't. And then on the flip side, what I find fascinating, and I did my own litmus test when I started my practice, I would do the same exercise with kids. I would say, because I would do like a lot of improv exercises with them, I would say, I want you to pretend 20 when you're 25, that's old to a 12-year-old. Like, that's old. So I want you to pretend you're 25. And I would give them a subject. And I wanted to do my own experiment on what shifted for them. Every single one of these kids, whether they were high school age or they were 12, their dynamic, their body language shifted too. They became more serious. You could tell they were trying to find words that were more complex. The way they stood changed. Their warmth went away. Their ability to be present went away. It's like they were trying so hard to find the right things to say. And that's when I knew that I was on to something with this whole connection thing.
It's interesting, because what I heard in that is this, and this is what I've been witnessing in myself and with my clients, is when we're trying too hard, it's felt. It's
Yeah.
like you said, it's even seen. It's seen, it's sensed, it's yeah.
Yes.
It becomes
Yes.
the main thing. When we're trying too hard in any capacity, it doesn't work well.
Isn't that true? I mean, I think that goes back to this work, and I never knew it until now. Like, the world of communication is 100% energy. It's energy work. Like, I never knew that was it either, because when I'm coaching, right? Like, when I coach someone, it's like, okay, yeah, you're thinking about what you want to say, but who are you going to be in that moment? How do you feel about this message? Are you inspired by what you're saying? Are you excited, or are you deflated? Or are you saying the words that are not mirroring who you're being? Because then we do all these exercises on what disconnects you when you're listening to someone. And we do a lot of work in that, like, to really take the bird's eye view of, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. I never thought of why I start thinking about what's for dinner and who's picking up the kids when I'm listening to someone. When I'm doing, right, I'm like, I'm listening, but no, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to cook tonight, and this is real conversation. So my work has really evolved and forced me to grow into thinking about communication in a whole new way.
I bet, because this is the thing that I find fascinating, is that it's evolving. It's alive and it's evolving, generations, platforms, mediums. It's in progress. It's not static. It's in
I love
motion.
that. You're so right. And if I can add on to that, it's also very much cultural. And I am going to use misogynistic. Like, I just recently coached this big executive who has this huge security company, and they were putting him, his company, his PR company was putting him on news outlets, and they hired me because they're like, Renee, he's really aggressive. And we started flipping the lid on how aggressiveness can be just misdiagnosed as passion, but for some people, it can appear as aggression. So we had to flip the lid on how to take the perception of him being aggressive and not toning it down, but shifting into the way he was showing up in front of his audiences. And that allowed him the space to tell part of his story when he was 5 years old, when his mother left. He lost his sense of security. He had never shared that, Monique, with anyone. And when we worked together on his new story, you could see like he was rebirthed. He became alive again to tap into the true purpose, which becomes more believable because when you're more sincere, not that you have to share all of your life's traumas, we all have stuff and we've all been through stuff, but when you can do it in such a way that the struggle does appear in the strength, or the strength appears in the struggle, and you're able to transmit that and translate that, you've created a whole new listening that you haven't had before. And that's what we saw with him and the tour that he went on. So it was really amazing to see it unfold.
I love that. So, when you look at your journey, what do you think was the main reason you stayed in these sort of misaligned careers and things? What do you think you were trying to prove or trying to figure out in that time?
I love this question because I hope you can be prepared to have your mouth drop on this one, but this is the real deal. I think I was so misaligned because I was living in imposter syndrome before imposter syndrome even became a definition. I will always remember this, Monique. I was giving a talk. It was my second year on the Pfizer account. I worked for the United Way in New York City. And people began to know me because you have to be around for different events. And I was giving this talk to these executives, and I noticed out of 150 men with pinstripe suits, there were 3 women in the room. And I'll always remember the 3 because they were all wearing navy blue suits with the pearls. Like, they looked the same as the men to me, which is odd. Anyways, after this talk, I had this man, people waiting in line to talk to me, which I felt really proud of, not as a boastful thing, but more of like they were engaged, and that's how I knew that they were engaged. So this man who's like 6'2", and I'm 5'2" with heels, maybe 5'2" with heels. He goes to shake my hand, and he says the following, and this is exactly why I was out of alignment for so many years. He says, "That was amazing speech for someone of your size. Like, I can't imagine like someone of your size can do that." And in that moment, my mouth dropped. And thankfully, I was taking a stand-up comedy class in New York at the time, and I shot back with something witty. But I left with the stinging of, there's no way I can be great at this. Like, I'm too little, I'm too overweight, my nose is too big, like, I'm a young woman. And I fed my brain with everything that led me down the road of being my own imposter for 20 years. I couldn't live in the brilliant part of what he was saying, but I lived with all of the negative connotations. Like, who am I to be that? You shouldn't be that. It doesn't line up. And I get that a lot. I recently had a client who he's a PhD. He's this big time therapist. We started working on Zoom, and he hired me for certain reasons for communication issues. And then we met in person. That's the first thing he said to me too, but he didn't react in the same way because of my maturity and my evolvement. He said, wow, I really thought you were taller. And so, of course, I was able to say to him, don't you know that fun things come in small packages? Like, I'm fun size. Like, go ahead. Like I'm able now to make light of it. But it's interesting that I let that man dictate my future. And I was not around enough people, I guess, the right role models to say, screw that, Renee. Like, you go for what you want. I was very much affected by my external environment. I hope that answers the question,
Yeah,
but that's the long
absolutely.
version.
It does, because recently I had a client take a downward spiral, and I asked the question, "What happened?" We talked here, we were on track. What happened between then and now? And somebody had jumped into her inbox, and everything that was said, just it was like a punch in the gut. And
Oof.
this is the thing, keep you said it so perfectly. When things happen, when people say comments, when they give us feedback, when they give us their opinion, we can hang on to one end of it or the other. We can hang on to some of it or none of it. We can hang on to all of it. And it's really fascinating to me how much it impacts us, when somebody says something, and then how long it goes. I actually think it was Mel. I saw maybe one of her reels, and it said a negative emotion only lasts like 20 to 60 seconds. It's very short, right? So when someone says something rude, or you fail at a test, or whatever it is, you get rejected, the feeling actually only lasts about a minute.
Mm-hmm.
However, the story that we create about the feeling, about the experience, can last for decades.
Yes. And isn't it true that because we are master storytellers, even in our own lives, about our own selves, the more bits of evidence that we have, we then create a believable story
Oh
about what
man,
is.
we create such a believable story, and then we're searching for the confirmation in life, and of course it will always show up. Like, we could
Right.
we could create anything, and we could go find evidence that would support it. And this is
Absolutely.
for me, it's proof of how powerful storytelling is. And when people tell me, oh, I'm not good at storytelling and I've never told my story, I said, bullshit. You have told. This is the thing you've done for your whole life. You've created stories, you've rehashed
Creative
them, you've
stories.
perpetuated them.
That's
That's what literally shapes our entire reality.
agreed. Agreed. Yes. Yes. And so I think that's why, like, I have this burning desire to get my message out there even more, to the audiences that are trying to be something that they're not, like using their accolades in such a way that it's not serving them good, and they're not connecting with the right audiences because there's some level of insecurity, I guess, that goes with that I have to be this, or I have to have achieved this to be of influence. And
Yes.
that's really become really important to me. I just rolled off, I have a partnership with the United Way here. They invite me every year to their youth leadership coalition, and I was in front of like 100 teens, and it was so cool for me to be able to like get them to see what influence really is, because in kids' minds, that's their principal, that's the guidance counselor, like people that they see as above them. And when you start to shift people's mindsets, kids as well as adults, that you can be of influence simply by the fact that you have something to give and teach, that alone is what gets people moving in the right direction for having better communication. And when they believe it, when they really start to believe it,
Yeah,
it's
it
like a
locks in.
cornerstone of what I do with people. Yeah.
I love that. So,
Thank you.
for someone listening who sees themselves in what you said, they're the sauce that's flying. They're misaligned. They've allowed the input of others to sort of strangle their genius. They they haven't yet believed in themselves. They haven't yet honored and recognized the best parts of themselves. What is something you would like to say to them today?
This is a great question. You know, we're, and I think women, we don't do a great job of this, especially many women. We do a good job of discrediting what others people say about us, right? When someone gives us an authentic compliment, we know it's true. We're quick to go, no, 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 that can't be so. One of the hardest things I think is to let go of our own perception and start trusting the people around us that are seeing what they see in us that for whatever reason we have not been able to see. And I think that becomes important, to stop mistrusting people and start trusting. That's when I had to go, wow, a lot of people are asking me for help. There must be a reason for that. They wouldn't be asking me for help if I wasn't good at this thing. So I would say that's number one. Very, very important to start mistrusting your own voice and start trusting the voice of others, especially the people that you know are in your corner or in your camp and that see the you for the real you. Number two, I saw this t-shirt once. It kind of becomes something I love talking about, how our ego is not our amigo. Our ego is not our amigo, in that we're so focused on the thing that we're trying to showcase that our passion, like, and our purpose becomes so low compared to the ego, that if we're able to maybe consider flipping that a little bit, maybe putting a little bit more trust into what we're caring about more so than who we are, that's another way to start showing up in alignment with who we are, because we're caring less about us and we're caring more about the thing. What is it that we want to be of service for? What are the things that we're naturally good at that we know is our gift to the world? So I hope that makes sense. I would say those are the two top things that are important.
I love that.
It's all
Renee,
about
where can
self-trust.
it's like you said, it's about recognizing if people are seeing this in me and they're coming to me for this, then it's okay for me to see it too. It's okay for me to acknowledge it too.
Correct. It's more than okay. It's time to listen. Because that's the one thing, like when I started evolving in this work, I didn't, I was always wanting to be the leader, but not recognized as the leader, which I find interesting. I was seen as the threat. Oh, she wants your job. And like, I was always seen as that person in the corporate space, where because I didn't know how to put myself in leadership positions. And then I would start to meet women who were so quick to put themselves down also. Like, you give someone a compliment. Oh, that's a beautiful dress. Oh, I got it at the, consignment store for $5. Well, how about just thank you? Like, let's just start honoring what people see in us and trusting, like, thank you so much. That's a beautiful necklace. Thank you so much. Even that, like, honoring the way others see us. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
would say.
Mm. Renee, where can people learn more about you and the work that you do?
Oh, awesome. So they can learn more about me at reneehopecooper.com. I am on most of the social media channels doing live, well, not so much lives. I should do more lives, but more tips and different things. I'm on Instagram a lot, Facebook, LinkedIn, and sometimes TikTok if I feel like it. At
I love
Renee
it.
Hope Cooper, at Renee Hope Cooper as well. And really, my main goal is to help people to just stop presenting. I think that's the biggest thing. Stop trying to present to others and start connecting with others by being present, being in the very moment of the thing that you're trying to relay to your audience. And by virtue of that, you will gain influence. There's no way that you cannot increase your influence if you're not those things. So that's become my motto. Stop presenting, start connecting, and increase your influence.
I love it. Renee, I appreciate you taking the time to be
Thank you.
here. And to our
Thank
listeners,
you.
thank you. If you would like to share your story on the story that built her, we'd love to have you. If you'd like to share your story in our upcoming collaboration books, we have the links in the description as well. Until next time, accept that compliment. You totally deserve it. All right.
You
Bye.
do. Thank you, Monique. Thank you.